Welcome back everyone, this is Panther Dragon. Today we're going to be doing a review and explanation, as well as Easter eggs and some things we missed in the first episode of Arcane League of Legends. Obviously the story is based off of Jinx and Vi, and honestly a bunch of champions you guys know in League of Legends that appear in the series. That's actually insane. I do wish some champions from other regions did appear, but honestly the cast right now that we have is pretty damn good. The series has been in the making for about 6 years, and if you guys didn't know, Jinx was actually released in October 2013, and the music video Get Jinxed was also released in 2013, of course. So this has been in production basically after 2 years since Jinx was released. That's why a lot of the lore of the characters in this video have been somewhat kind of on a down low, and you can't really find too much online, just because Riot knew that they were going to be coming out with an actual series for the game. And that's why they went into, you know, things like the Rune Nation, which was yeah, that was interesting. So obviously I can't show a lot of Arcane episode 1 just because of copyright, but yeah, basically the episode starts with Jinx and Vi in a battle, and you can see the enforcers are made to be looking the winners here, just shooting people and looking very menacingly, while Jinx and Vi are walking ever so slowly across the bridge, who then they come across a guy whose name is Vander. Now if you guys don't know, Vander is actually going to become Warwick. How does he become Warwick? Of course, we have to find out and see how the series progresses. It seems like he's actually kind of a father figure to Vi and Jinx, because after Jinx and Vi's mother and father passed away, which happened in this battle, he then sees them sorrowing and has to pick them up and carry them away. Imagine Dragons intro does play, and it's pretty funny because it goes from a destruction scene to a Imagine Dragons intro, which is actually pretty good. Afterwards, you can see a scene where Jinx and Vi and 2 other people who run in the same gang as Jinx and Vi, and they're on a heist to get these blue orbs that you'll see later. But it does show that Jinx is not really capable of having high mechanics, while the other 3 do have, well, they're just not an AD carry and they're kind of built different. You can see Jinx is pretty immobile, and that's why they put her as an AD carry role, so kind of makes sense. Anyways, they do make it to this place where it has a bunch of interesting tech, all very Piltover-ish. Anyways, Milo, the skinnier person, actually doesn't seem to have too much experience with tech, but Jinx tells him that the tech he has is actually a nose trimmer. So you can tell right here, Jinx is pretty smart with her gadgets. Also, Jinx's nickname when she was a kid is Powder. Anyways, they pocket everything and anything they can find, and in a separate room, Jinx finds a mysterious chest that contains glowing blue nuggets of crystal. I'm not sure what these could be. I want to say hex cores, because I keep playing TFT, and these things do radiate a big amount of energy, and I want to say it's related to Victor, but honestly, probably not. They're just probably some gems that have high amounts of energy. It's probably hex cores, let's be honest here. Before she can investigate further, I hear some footsteps in the hall. Milo smartly jams the door with a chair as the crew scrambles to grab what they can, but in her haste to pocket all the crystal, Jinx drops one of them. As they flee onto the balcony to make their escape, the blue crystal rolls across the stone floor, each bounce releasing increasingly violent arcs of magical electricity. Just as Vi grabs her bag to meet everyone outside, the crystal shatters and explodes, obliterating the lab and nearly killing the orphans. Jesus. Just then, part of the balcony they're on collapses onto the street below, nearly killing a patrol of enforcers. The enforcers and Vi lock eyes, and then she says the S word, which is shit. And of course, this scene starts to run. Now that is actually the same bridge that Vi and Jinx's parents actually died on. Clegor, the big guy, obviously frustrated at what happened with Operation, says, "What the hell was that?" While Vi is undeniably their leader, Powder is the runt tag along that Milo and Claggor seem to think is bad luck. She's too young and helpless to roll with them. Now they move to the desiccated streets of Piltover and the underground Zon. The crew is challenged by another street rat named Deckard, who heard of the commotion across the bridge and suspects they've stolen a small fortune. This kid also becomes infatuated with a drug, and he kind of looks like Varys, but later on, this guy will be taking some good drugs. Attempts to defuse the situation fail, and the kids are drawn into a surprisingly vicious street fight, all except Powder, who watches on the sidelines, clutching a backpack full of stolen goods. One of the attackers notices Powder, and she takes off running with him in pursuit, while the rest are too distracted by the scrap. The fight ends with Deckard desperately drawing a knife, to which Vi calls his bluff like a total badass. Drawing in close, so the blade is mere inches from her eye, she stares Deckard down. Want to see how that ends? Meanwhile, Powder flees through the streets and is cornered on a riverbank by one of the remaining thugs. She pulls a homemade grenade she calls Mauser and throws it at him, but all it does is fizzle and release harmless pink smoke. This grenade, although Jinx doesn't have any grenades in-game, could be a sneak preview to how she gets her flame chompers, which is a trap, not a grenade. Back against the water, Powder throws their backpack of loot into the water and uses the distraction to make her escape. Once everyone is united just before nightfall, Milo chastises Powder for once again screwing up all of their hard work. Vi steps in to defend her and reassures her that it's all okay, but Milo isn't having it. As the group boards an elevator down into the true undercity of Zon, Milo pushes the issue. Every time she comes, something goes wrong. She jinxes every job. It's here that we get our first look at the city that the four orphans call home, a sinister green vertical sprawl of ramshackle buildings jutting out from either side of narrow canyon, Zon. It's a grimy, neon-drenched metropolis lined with brothels, shady back alleys, and merchants selling illicit goods. And it's here that we find out that Vander is in fact the man from the intro who took Vi and Powder home after their parents were killed. Vander is actually the Hound of the Underground and owner of the popular watering hole, The Last Drop. Yep, this is the same bar where Imagine Dragons is actually at and doing enemy. You could say he's a bit of a local hero, which is made obvious when Vander intercedes on behalf of a merchant being extorted by two villains. She looks like to be the same race as Alawi, but honestly, probably doesn't have the power of Nagadaboros. Basically a Kraken in League of Legends, but a god. As Vi and crew slip into the Last Drop's back room, Vander spots them and knows something is up. Following after them, he immediately sees through their feeble attempt to play ignorance. You know, about the enormous ruckus they caused topside with the explosion. What the hell were you thinking, Vander says, and I'm a little surprised Vi didn't shout back at him. But whatever. As Vander and Vi argue, they establish the dynamics of not only their relationship, but the violence looming over Piltover and Zon. Vander, keen to help these orphans become self-sufficient, is horrified to see them mimic the very types of crimes that made him a legend in Zon. More importantly, he's upset that Vi doesn't seem to understand what kind of responsibility she has being the de facto leader of the group. Meanwhile, Vi doesn't see why Piltover should be off limits when everyone there is living a life of luxury, while Zonites are condemned to the gutters. We make ourselves a bit of a problem for Piltover, and they will send us the enforcers. That's what Warwick says, but Vi, being younger and full of spunk, welcomes that threat of violence. What matters now, though, is that thanks to Powder throwing the backpack overboard, nothing can tie the kids to whatever happened in Piltover. Still, Vander will need to smooth the situation over, starting by having a chat with the informant called Little Man, who tipped off Vi off to the science lab in the first place. He's equally concerned about Deckard, the street rat who seemed to know what Vi and everyone were up to. As Vander heads out into Zon with Claggor, we see Powder fishing around in some trash looking for metal scraps to make another grenade. She opens her small side bag and reveals she kept one of the magical crystals that caused the explosion above. Zoinks. Heading back inside the Last Drop, Powder overhears Milo and Vi arguing about her again. Only this time, the snippet of conversation she catches makes it seem like Vi is agreeing with Milo when she was really just standing up for her. Hurt and ashamed, she flees to her room. Vander, meanwhile, makes a visit to a close friend and local merchant named Benzo. The two talk about the kids and Vander's vain desire to protect them from the harsh reality of the world they inhabit. Vander mentions Deckard and how troubling he finds it that he seemingly knew about the heist and hints that there are much worse things in the world than enforcers. Outside, Claggor questions Little Man, who turns out to be a much younger Echo, another league champion, about how he learned about the science lab. Just as they're talking, two enforcers show up and Claggor fees. It's clear right now that Vander has a special relationship with one of these two enforcers, an older woman with a gravelly voice named Grayson. The two seems to have an uneasy alliance to try and keep peace between Piltover and Zahn, but that peace is now threatened by today's events. Turns out the lab was owned by a powerful Piltover family and Piltover's ruling government. The council is demanding someone's head. Unless Vander gives her name, she can't guarantee it won't lead the Piltover cops shoving their way into Zahn. Vander, being the absolute unit he is, refuses to snitch, but Grayson leaves him with a communication device he can use to reach her if he changes his mind. Meanwhile, Echo had been eavesdropping on the whole exchange and is obviously troubled to see Vander cohorting with the cops, or in cahoots. Back at the last drop, Vi finds Powder drawing a cute face on another grenade, a kind of calling card for the hero's makeshift weapons into the game. You know, fishbones and pow pow minigun? Yeah, I know the weapons by heart. Vi tries to console Powder, who's upset about letting the group down again, but it doesn't work, so Vi takes her topside to show her something. Sitting on the roof of a building in one of the districts, straddled between Piltover and Zahn, Vi shares old stories about Clagor and Milo. There's also this segment, which looks a lot like Echo's preview. You know, something like this, and you can see Jinx on the left side and Echo's preview story. She also shows her a stuffed bunny that Vi used to love, which bullies threw over some electrical wires crossing the street, putting it forever out of reach. Vi explains that she used to come up there and stare at it, hoping one day a gust of wind might knock the bunny loose so she can reclaim it. The two make amends just as Powder reveals that she held onto not one but several of the magical crystals from the lab. Should we tell Vander, she asks? No, let's keep this our secret, little Vi says. As the camera pans out to reveal Piltover bathed in the light of the moon. Milo's wrong, Powder, you're stronger than you think, and one day the city is going to respect us. Just before the credits roll, we're taken to what appears to be some kind of underwater lab. Deckard sits in his chair, ganked by massive tattooed gangsters. Clearly, he's in trouble. In the darkness of the lab, a thin man with facial scars and a single black eye questions why Deckard disobeyed when his orders were merely to follow Vi, not fight her. Deckard, scrambling to save his hide, reveals that Vi was responsible for the explosion topside and that enforcers are looking for them. Vander's in trouble, the mysterious man says, and congratulates Deckard for being useful and sends him and the gangsters away. Now, obviously, this mysterious man, well, he turns out to be singed, but I didn't tell you that. Now alone, he turns to a jaunt scientist into the corner of the lab, handling a glowing pink substance, and tells him their timeline has moved forward. This pink thing is going to be the drug that Jinx drinks later. And obviously we get to see a rat take the drug and become extremely, I don't know, crazy and destroys the cat that he also puts in. Some are speculating that this rat turns into Mundo. I'm just kidding. It doesn't turn into Mundo, but it might be Twitch. We don't know. And that's it. That's episode 1. Tell me what you guys think about this and leave a comment below. I might do episode 2 or 3, but we'll see. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.